My name's Chloe, and I'm here to talk about my experience as a quality assurance analyst for Team17. I've got a short presentation, which I'm going to read through, and then we'll do a little bit of a Q&A afterwards if anyone's got any questions. So to start off, here's a little bit about me. My name is Chloe. I'm 22 years old, and I work for Team17, which is an indie developer and publisher based in Wakefield, West Yorkshire. I've worked there for just over 2 years now, and whilst I've been there, I've worked on games such as Overcooked 2 and The Escapist 2. Since I was a child, I absolutely loved video games, but there was never really any information on how I could get into them. I attended a college course which kind of brushed over the different jobs and focused more on the creative side, but it wasn't until after college that I actually found any information on how to get into the industry. And as a child, that was something I never thought was possible before. So Team17 is an indie developer and publisher, which means that we self-develop our own games, but we also work with small indie companies to create, polish, and then sell their games. For me in QA, that means I see a lot of different games every year, so there's always new content and things to look forward to. The two main games that I've worked on are The Escapist 2 and Overcooked 2. And I've spent just over a year on both of these projects. And while that could seem daunting, spending over a year playing the same game, we get a lot of new content coming in, a lot of DLC, patches, so there's always new things to be working on. When I tell people that I work in QA, a lot of people ask me, what does that mean? Or does that mean you just sit and play games all day? And whilst that's technically true, there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. It's kind of just a fancy way of saying games tester, but we also report bugs, we provide feedback, and we work with the developers to ensure that the games are as polished as possible. It's usually seen as an entry-level position in the industry, and a lot of students straight out of college and university will look for a job in QA, as it gives you more time to work on things like portfolios and skills, and it also provides a really good look at just the development cycle of games, which is something a lot of companies do look for. It also provides a lot of hands-on experience, and this is vital because a lot of companies now ask for 1, 2, 3, or sometimes more published titles under your name when they're looking for staff. So QA is a really good first step to get into the industry. So I've listed out a few of our day-to-day tasks on the board, and it just to give you a feel of the things that we do every day, part of our job. So to start with, we will get any builds that we're given by the developers, which are kind of like work-in-progress versions of the game. We install these onto any consoles that we need to, which can include things like PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. We'll also receive a focus in the morning from our project lead, and this usually tells us our focus for the day, what we'll be testing, and what platform we need to test on. Whilst we are testing, we usually follow test plans, and these are big documents which will provide lists and scenarios, test cases that we'll follow. These can cover things like localization, achievements, playthroughs, online multiplayer, and gameplay mechanics. We just work through these. If the test is a pass, we pass it. If it's a fail and we found bugs, we'll then go on and report them. So the main and most important part of our job is finding and entering the bugs. QA is the final step between a game going to submission, and we need them to pass submission. It's the most important part of the end of the process, and it's the kind of barrier between development and the game going live. So when we're bugging issues, we provide a brief title, a more detailed description, steps to reproduce the issue, and also how we expect the game to behave when the issue isn't present. Once these things have been bugged, we'll then send them off to the developers, they'll fix the issues, and then they'll get sent back to us, which then moves on to regressing issues, which kind of means re-looking at a bug and ensuring that it is fixed. If it's not fixed, we send it back to the developers to be fixed again. If it is fixed, then that's good, and we can close the issue out. Towards the end of the day, we'll usually report back to our test lead. We'll tell them about any issues we've found, and then any problems that they need to pass on to production or coders, And we'll also write a small end-of-day report, which takes about 5 minutes. So on the board is like the general cycle of QA. This usually lasts around 1 or 2 months for us, depending on what we've got in test. So the start of our testing will look at the first functional build, which is very bare bones. Usually doesn't have a lot of art in. Gameplay mechanics may not be finished. Levels may not be completed. And there might not be correct audio or UI. This is generally the first step in the cycle, and we won't be bugging many issues. We usually provide feedback on things like general playability, and then we wait for the next stage in the cycle, which is usually the longest. The largest portion of our testing is done when we have, like every couple of days, we'll have new content trickle in from the developers. As it comes in, we'll begin testing on it, and the developers will tell us when they want a feature bugging. We'll also provide more feedback on things like difficulty, playability, and also general end-user ideas. So, for example, if we think a level's too hard or unbalanced, we'll tell the developers now, and that's when they can fix it and sort it out. So we'll then go into a content complete build, which means we're preparing for submission with Sony, Nintendo, or Microsoft. This means that everything should be implemented in the game, and there should be no further changes. Only minor bug fixes will be coming in, and this is the part where QA do most of the work. It's up to us to polish the build and make sure it's as bug-free as possible. And usually developers and artists will start to be moved on to other projects at this time, because it's mostly up to us. This then leads up to submission day and our submission build. This is generally when we run a very condensed test plan, which focuses on several different areas, including platform compatibility, multiplayer, general playthroughs, art, localization, and audio. And these are key, and they must be functioning and properly working. If we do fail a build, we then have to begin the process of sign-off again after waiting for the issues that were found to be fixed. After we've submitted a successful build, the cycle basically begins again. A lot of games feature extra DLC or day one patches, and these are usually ready to come into QA a week or so after submission has just gone. So we've always got new content rolling in. So a lot of people don't really know how to get a job in QA, but some important things include having good English, maths, and IT skills, because these will be needed for your day-to-day testing and also bug writing. And the most important thing is to probably have a passion for games. If you can show this to the company you want to work for, then you've got a really good chance of getting a job. A lot of people think you might need a university degree to be part of QA. Whilst that's not necessarily true, because I don't have a university degree myself, if you're wanting to specialize further down the line as something like a programmer or an artist, it's always good to have a university degree just to back you up. Having a portfolio available is also a really good idea, because it shows your willingness to learn and your commitment to your specialization. Whilst it might not seem that important to have a portfolio ready for a job in QA, it always shows you the company that you're wanting to join, that you've got a lot of commitment and you're willing to continue working hard. It's also a really good idea to have plenty of knowledge about the companies you want to apply for. Things like playing their games to get a feel for the kind of work they do, and also reading up on things like when the company was founded, if they've won any awards, how they handle their games, if they publish. It's always really important to know the company you want to apply for. We also do usability sessions down at Team17, and this is a really good way to get a little bit of hands-on experience. We host them at our Wakefield office. They're for people of all ages and skills, so whether you're a gamer or not, parents can come along, younger children are sometimes welcome. And the main purpose of these sessions is to just make sure our games are fun to play and easy to use. Taking part in these is a really good way to start thinking like a tester, because you'll be asked for feedback on things like controls, functionality, and just general playability. And it allows you to sort of start to see the different ways that games are put together. If you are interested, we have more information on our website, which is team17.com/usability-lab. And these sessions can run for from an hour to up to a day, and you're also paid £10 an hour for your time. So there are quite a lot of misconceptions that people seem to think when it comes to QA. A lot of people think that all we do is play games all day, and that's not true at all. People seem to think it's very easy and effortless, but we have to follow test plans, we have to report issues, and we are the final barrier between a game going to submission and the publishing companies. People also hear a lot about overtime, and we've recently had a lot in the news about industry crunch time, and it's not always an issue. For example, at Team17, we do have overtime, but it's rare, and it's usually 1 or 2 nights a week when needed. It doesn't last any more than 3 hours, food is provided, and you're also paid extra for it. We also seem to have a very a bad reputation for having high turnover rates in QA. But this generally isn't an issue if you're willing to prove that you want your job. A lot of time, QA are hired on rolling contracts for 3 or 6 months at a time, which can make the job feel really competitive and sometimes difficult. But if you work hard and prove that you want that job and that you're willing to learn and you want to perform better, then there's a really good chance that you'll get hired as permanent staff. For example, when I started at Team17, I started on a 3-month contract, but within 2 months, I'd been hired as a permanent member of staff. When I started in QA, my parents also thought that QA would be a dead-end job, and all I'd be doing is playing games all day, but that's not the case at all. A job in QA can get you anywhere within the games industry. You will get a really close look at the development cycle, and you can work closely with artists, programmers, and designers. And once you've seen the games industry and once you're in there, it's a lot easier to get another job because you'll have a portfolio behind you, you'll have games you've worked on, and it's just companies usually prefer hiring from within as well. So if you're already within a company, it's a lot easier to move up in the ranks once you're there. QA generally isn't something that people want to spend their career in, but if you're willing to put in hard work and you show some passion, then you can achieve any position in the games industry that you want. Whilst I've worked there, we've also had a lot of fun things at Team17. We're rewarded for our hard work with things like team building days, where we'll go out and have little competitions with each other, like mini sports days. We've been to places like Arcade Club in Bury and escape rooms in Leeds, and it's just a day where we can just relax and forget about work. We've also had a variety of smaller awards, which are like free lunches provided, breakfast, and we've had things like we have a snack fridge, tuck shop, things like that. We've also started celebrating our release days a little more recently. For example, My Time at Porsche recently released on console. And to mark the event, we had things like balloons and posters around the office. We had snacks provided, breakfast was provided, and we had a really big celebration cake, which we all got to share. We've also got another award coming up, which will be an afternoon out doing laser tag for the celebration of our World War II shooter, Hell Let Loose, which comes out in June. A lot of gaming companies also provide job perks. These can include things like healthcare and insurance, discounted gym memberships, and cycle to work schemes. And whilst they're not exactly fun things, they're really useful, and it makes it feel like the company really does care about your health and well-being. So one of the most exciting things I've done because of my job in QA was in March this year, I was asked to attend PAX East, which is a gaming convention in Boston, America. And myself and 7 other Team17 members flew out to America for a week, and we got the chance to showcase some of our games to our fans and interact with people. And it was a phenomenal experience. And without my job in QA, I would not have had the chance to do that. And I wouldn't be here speaking to you guys because that's where I met Jamie. So I absolutely love my job in QA. I think it's a fantastic experience. There can be some stressful times and sometimes slow days, but I wouldn't give it up. I think it's phenomenal when you know you've worked on a project that is loved by so many people and has won awards. And in the 2 short years that I've been working there, I have had so many fantastic experiences. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Chloe. That was awesome. Anybody got any questions about games testing? Yes.
Hi. Thank you for that. That was really interesting. You talk about having a portfolio kind of ready to try and show to companies to try and get a job. What goes into that portfolio?
A lot of staff members have like very basic LinkedIn profiles, which just list like their like if they've been to university, things like that. So that's a good start for someone who may not know how they want to branch out. Like myself, for example, I didn't know if I wanted to be an artist or if I wanted to be a programmer. So I just kind of had a very basic LinkedIn profile. But if you do know how you want to specialize, if it's art, for example, you can have things like an art station or a Tumblr account with all your art posted on. If it's programming, you could fetch in small Flash games that you've created, or just build a website and show that off.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, always showing your passion for games is a big thing. And if you can go in with games that you've made and events that you've come to like this and say, you know, I'm really passionate about the industry, the more you can demonstrate that, like Chloe says, the better. Any other questions? Yes, got a question here, Chloe?
Hi there. I'm currently looking for work experience. Do you know of any offers in Leeds?
I'm not sure exactly, but I know that there are a lot of companies that do hire a lot of QA staff. There are quite a few like mobile companies, VR companies that are scattered around like West Yorkshire. And there's also places like Team17, there's Sumo down in Sheffield as well. So it's a really good idea to just keep an eye on all their websites because jobs get posted all the time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, there's I'm going to be talking about Yorkshire companies in the talk at 1 o'clock. So we'll list quite a few companies from Yorkshire, and you can basically follow them on Twitter, go on their websites, because they do tend to promote any opportunities. Like Team17, Sumo, they regularly have placements. So yeah, that can help. Time for one last question, if anybody's got one. I was going to ask about just being in Yorkshire and making games in Yorkshire. I mean, is this kind of like a dream come true? You'd have to move out of the region and...
Yeah, it was very weird. I didn't realize until I was in college that there was a game studio literally 5 minutes from my house. I thought they were all around London or abroad. I didn't know Team17 was so close to me. And at that point, that's when I found out they did the usability sessions, which I then attended and eventually helped me get my job. Because I did that, I had a 3-day college week, so I had 2 spare days where I could just go and do usability sessions. It was paid, and it was some really good experience.
Fantastic. Big round of applause for Chloe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.